I encouraged us last week or the last time we met, that we should download ATLAS.TI. But before we go into ATLAS.TI, I would want us to look at what we did before we got into ATLAS.TI. So this is a project that I did some years back, maybe a year or 2 years back, and I would like to use it as template to teach us this morning. So we'll first look at the interview guide. The project was carried out in 5 countries in Africa, and it was to look at, it was to investigate unemployment, labor market opportunities, and barriers to tertiary graduates in urban centers in 5 African countries. So this was the question guide. It is important to look at what a question guide looks like so that we can understand how to go about this. So this is an example. This is the background information. You first have to introduce the project. So this is.
We are not seeing your screen. We are just seeing the.
Can we see now?
We are seeing the window showing the content of training dental coding process, not just a list of files.
Oh, okay. So let me stop sharing and share again.
Share again, yeah.
Can we see
it's coming up? We can see now, yeah. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. Yeah. So this is the example of what an interview guide should look like. Not necessarily this format, but this is what it should look like. So you would introduce the subjects or the projects to your respondents, collect consent, and then move on. Your consent shouldn't be verbal. Even though you have verbal consent, you should have your respondents write out their consent, so that in case you have funders who want to see who want evidence of consent, that you can show what you have. Disability, of course, sometimes you just see. So what is unemployment among graduates with disabilities in this institution, region, or country, depending on what you want to know. But in this study, we wanted to know about their institution, the region of their country. So if it's the 6 zones of Nigeria, then in the country itself. Now, having responded, if the respondent has not differentiated between unemployment and underemployment, it was important for this study to probe for the differences between unemployment and underemployment. You know that most people see them as same, but the study was interested in knowing the differences. We want to know if graduates know the differences between unemployment and underemployment. So if the respondent had not gone in that route, if the response has not touched on that, you had to probe. So that is what probing is about. Probe for what you actually want, especially if your respondents have not said it. Now, the second one is, who is the unemployment graduate? Or who are the unemployment graduates? So it says there are people, blah, 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 blah. If he has not touched on age, you are interested in age. So you say, okay, so what age differences, or do you think age matters when it comes to unemployment? Can a 16-year-old be unemployed? A 16-year-old graduate? Can a 40-year-old be unemployed? So gender too matters. So we want to probe more for gender, especially if the respondent has not touched on gender. You want to probe on physical disability status. So do you think people who have physical disabilities or people who have mental disabilities, do you think that could affect or impact on their unemployment status? So these are things you want to probe for. You want to probe for socioeconomic status. So if you are from a wealthy home and you are comfortable, can you also be unemployed? You want to probe for educational status. Okay, so do you think being an undergraduate, being a graduate, a first degree graduate, would make you more unemployed than if you had a PhD? Your place of residence, okay, so if you are living in Ajamopo as compared to somebody living in Lagos, do you think that could lead to unemployment? So these are ways to ask when we say probe, when you have to ask for probe. So can you talk about the status unemployment of graduates among nursing mothers? So you want to probe for patterns of graduate unemployment. You want to probe for reasons for embarking on postgraduate studies. Okay, so you are a graduate student in a university and you are a nursing mother. Do you think that what are the reasons why you are embarking on postgraduate studies? Because of the unemployment status, or because you want to be a lecturer, or because you want to be a researcher? So you probe on that. So this is a style. You can note that there are no questions that would give you responses of yes or no. Moving on, we have just this you could go through, but these are, when you say probes, these are things you want to make sure that your respondents give you. So these are important information in the study. Those are things you must probe for. And then you need to probe when you've asked the general question and you think that your respondent or your participant has not answered in the style you want him or her to answer. For instance, you don't have to, now we have all this list of probes. Please note that you don't have to probe for all. You are probing for the ones that him or her has not spoken to, has not given you answers on. For instance, how has the Graduate and Employability Services mainstreamed gender issues into academic activities in your institution? So he talks about entrepreneurship training. He has talked about it. He has talked about internship. He has talked about part-time job, but he skipped application advices. He has skipped funding support. He has skipped self-discovery training, but he has mentioned all other probes. So you want to ask again, okay, so how do you think that application advice, if your university had or your institution had looked into advising graduates on application procedure, do you think it will have made them more employable? Then that's a probe. So you don't want to ask and say, okay, I'm probing for application advice, okay, and I'm probing for funding support. No. So having answered on application advice, then you want to go on again and say, okay, do you think that if the university had funded or given some funding or giving some trainings, self-discovery trainings on graduate employability, do you think would have made it better for them to get for gender, or if for respondents or for graduates of the university to have been employed? So it's a probe. So these are examples of what a question interview guide could look like. Note that you are not reading out, and that's why the answer is important, because if you look at it, it looks bulky, it looks a lot. It looks like, oh, how would I do 7 pages questioning in 1 hour? And they said it shouldn't be long, it shouldn't be boring, it shouldn't be. Note that sometimes they've answered some of the questions in the first instance. For instance, you're asking what is employability, and he has answered is somebody that can talk. So he has responded. As he's responding, you're going through your interview guide and you are taking those you think he has mentioned without going back on the same question. But the interview guide is a guide, that should is a guide that should guide that should guide the interview session. All right, so thank you. Let me take this down. And do we want to ask questions on that while I share our, let me see, what should I share next? So now we have a transcript. No, before we go to transcripts, let's look at code book. So I stop sharing and go back to code. Sorry, it might be a bit clumsy today, but bear with me as I go back and forth.
All right. I think Okeke has a question.
All right. Thank you. Okay, please ask your question.
Okay. Thank you very much, ma'am. My question is, who prepared this interview guide? Are you the one that prepares it, or is it already there for you now to go through it?
All right, so you prepare your interview guide yourself. You could employ somebody or meet, just like you prepare your questionnaire yourself. You're supposed to prepare your interview guide yourself. There's no interview guide on the internet that you want to crop or harvest. But based on your research questions, your objective, you come up with your research questions that would your interview questions that must give answers to your objective. So you can see just like you have questions from your questionnaire. It's the same way you sit down with your interview guide and form with the help of your supervisor or your research team, if it's a big research, is usually informed by your literature search, your literature review, and your objective. I hope you understand that.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right, so I'm moving on from, so we've gone to the field, we've asked question, it's been recorded, we have the transcripts. I'll show us what the transcript will look like when we go into ATLAS.TI. But for now, having read through, remember I was saying you read and reread, you have the transcripts, you read again and read again, and then you form your teams and your codes. All right, so this is an example of a code book. We call it a code book from the same interview. In that project, there were 95 transcripts from 5 countries. So we had to read through the different transcripts. And then we decided as a team to use both the deductive and inductive approach because even though we went to the field with a mindset, with some teams, with some categorization of how we think employability affects, what leads to employability is the barriers that leads to employability based on our literature search. But we also thought that since the graduates are the ones experiencing the challenge, it was important to read through their transcripts and then get other things that we did not go to the field with. So for this project, we used both deductive and deductive approach. Now, having read through the 95 transcripts and then the preconceived themes, we had these themes. So we had expectation at graduate. Don't mind this, it didn't follow the format of the questioning. We arranged it alphabetically. So this is expectation at graduation. When you were graduated, what were your expectations? So then you describe what you expect, especially when you have more than one person coding. It's important to have a code book because that is what will guide all the coders to all the analysts. Let me use that word, all the analysts to know what they are looking for in the transcript. So expectation at graduation, under which we had expectation at internship. Go back up. Expectation _ internship. So when you had internship, for those who had internship, expectation, did you think you're going to get a well-paid job? Did you think you're going to first be an intern? Did you have fear of underemployment? Did you think that your field was going to have more problems than if you had been a nurse? Do you think it would have been easier to get a job than being a doctor? If you had been a pharmacist, do you think it would have been easier? So we went up. So when we were going to the field, we had expectation at graduation. But by the time we did the read through the data, we came up with all these other under expectation at graduation. So we had capacity building job. Did you think you were going to get a capacity building job? Did you think that your family expectation at graduation was bigger than what you thought you were going to? What were your expectations? So the code was to explain participant aspiration for being autonomous or self-sufficient or working for someone after graduation. What were the expectations at graduation? So this is a form of a code book. Then securing employment. As we went on, the red was another that we added. So what was the effects of family and societal expectation on former employment? And then like that. So then the next we wanted to do was to comparison between unemployment and underemployment. So it was to understand the basic basic understanding of the participant's readiness or willingness to work or to work, but without the jobs availability. So that is the understanding that we went to the field with. The code was to or engagement is below their qualification or skill. That's underemployment. It is also, that's for knowledge of underemployment. For knowledge of employment, it was to see, reflect participant opinion on whether unemployment affects more men than women. The code also wanted to describe opinion on the age cohort. You remember I said wanted to look at age difference, the gender difference, and then we also wanted to see how to describe the factors that underline unemployment and underemployment. We also wanted to see how socioeconomic class influence unemployment opportunity. We also wanted to see the effect of networks, who you know, with highly placed persons in determining persons' unemployment and under a code book. So fast. Any question on the code book? These are important because they should help us understand the apologies for all of these concerns, but it's important for today. So I'll go to my own ATLAS.TI. So any question as we go on?
Azan, you can come up.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Prof. Good morning, Doctor. Good morning, Doctor. Yes, ma'am. So, can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay.
though your voice is a
Hello.
little.
Sorry, sir. The code generation from the transcript after the interview or the survey or whatever the quantitative research after we administer it, we then did that ourselves to generate the results that would perform the code. So that's the process. Like we take the interview and make the code ourselves. That is the basis of what we insert into the software to generate the results. I wanted to figure out if I wasn't understanding clearly. So that's why I'm asking the question.
I apologize. You were not clear.
Okay, I was going to confirm if you heard because I didn't hear him clearly. Maybe you use the chat box.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, I will do that.
Okay.
But I think you're clear now, so maybe we can give it another try.
Okay, but what I was saying was that you showed us that you were going to insert into the ATLAS.TI software to analyze for you. That code itself is generated by the researcher. The codes are generated by you, man. Not any you should be without the use of any software. It does that mean you do the work to read each interview prompt and generate the
I think
code that you are
your
going
voice
to
is
input
still.
in.
Okay, if I heard you right, you're saying that why should we why should we generate code book if the software was going to generate it for us? Is that what you mean?
I'm very sorry for the back and forth. I'm even trying one last time. What I'm asking is that when you administer the survey or the interview prompt to the respondent for the research,
Sorry, Adam, are you
do
using the earpiece?
yes, I am.
Please, I think you should remove it.
Okay.
Okay, try
Hello,
it.
is it clear
Yeah,
now?
it's clear now. Yeah.
All right. Sorry for this. What I'm asking is that after after administering the questionnaire or the interview prompts to the respondent, the results they give, the code generated from that result, is it done by the researcher by hand, or is there any process between that and the input of the code into the ATLAS.TI software? That was what I was asking.
Thank you very much. It's an excellent question. Yes, you first have to, ATLAS.TI is, even though it has AI, it's a software that you remember that even in whole, well, in most softwares, you have to prompt the software. You have to tell the software what it should do. You have to tell the manager what it should do. So it's important to first sit down with your questionnaire, your transcripts, and build your own code book. It depends on what if you are using ATLAS.TI, it's code book. If you are using some, it's code 3. So it's important for you to sit down first, read and reread. Qualitative research is not quantity. It's quantity that you just give code and then you get answers. For qualitative, you are the one interpreting. The manager is just a manager. This software that I'm displaying is just a manager. It's going to help you manage your analysis process. It's going to help you keep things in the right places. It's not going to do the analysis for you. You are the brain behind the analysis. So as you went to the field with your interview guide that you developed, with your research questions, with your objective that you wanted to, it's the same way you will sit down with your transcript, read and reread, and then go through and decide, depending on your research design, are you going to use just deductive? Are you going to use inductive? What that means is, are you going to allow the transcripts, the interview speak to you? Or are you going to speak are you going to look through the transcript for what you are searching? That's all that I mean by deductive, inductive. So having understood that, and that was why if you can remember the picture I had when I was doing the training of the one that you went with color codes, and then you were using the color code to bring out information from the transcript, and the other one that you didn't go with color code, but from the transcript that you had, you started giving codes. In this study, we did both. And then by the time you read and reread your transcripts, you remember that before you went to the field, if you are using the one that you had your preconceived themes, you had your themes, you knew what you wanted to go and ask based on your objective, and then you had those written down already that should guide what you are looking for in your transcript. But as you read through, because you wanted to use inductive too, you started looking again from the transcript to see what is new. What did I not go to the field with? and then you built the code 3. Now, this code book is what you will import into your ATLAS.TI. Now, as I open this now, you see that it says I have 95 documents. I had 166 codes. Those are the codes that I formed on my code book. Now, if I open my code, you will see what I mean. So you can see that is almost, let me maximize so that you can see. You will see that is the same causes of unemployment _ connection, just like I had on my code book, is what I brought into my ATLAS.TI. And that is what will guide my analysis. That is what will guide, I can expand this so that you can see it clearly. This code book is what I will then start looking for, or these codes is what I will start putting quotation into. Now, so having showed you this, let's go back to, so we have the documents. Remember I said for the software, for the free one, you're allowed to bring in 10 documents. I'm not sure if the new version will allow more than that, but the last time I saw, this is my own 24 ATLAS.TI. By the time I was doing this project, I was using ATLAS 9. Between then and then, there was, so suddenly I was using 9, then there was 23. So I had to quickly switch to 23, purchase 23. But now, so I reported this on 23. But now it has migrated me to 24 because I have 24. So whatever project I've had from 8, it would automatically move it on because I am I'm a faithful, I'm a loyal user. So as new one comes on, I buy. So as I'm moving on, is moving all my projects from 8 to 9 to 23 to 24. So the reason why I'm explaining this is because there are some things I could have done on 24 that I did not do because I didn't use 24. Just to say that. Now we have all the 95 transcripts. Now, so let's look at I think I put spotlight on Kenya because that was what Kenya nursing mother. So let's look at Kenya nursing mother. You could search in this is a search box. You could search documents here. Kenya, sorry. So it brings, okay, so this is Kenya nursing mother. Now, because the question that we read through was for nursing mother, that's why I wanted us to use Kenya nursing mother. Okay, so this was an interview that was done for 1 hour, 7 seconds. And so the interviewer is doing hello, blah, 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 all the this is the la 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 la. You're welcome. We want you to be part of the study. What is your name? How old are you? We love you. You look good. You look beautiful. Blah 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 blah. All right. So this is the first question that sounds like. Now for the preliminary, there's another place where you could do it so that it doesn't lump, and that's why it doesn't look like we are coding anything yet. We use another interface to do the social demographics. But for this phase, so the first thing we coded is so yeah, is asking the question, what's the differences between unemployment and unemployment in Kenya? This is especially among graduates. So the interviewer, the difference, interviewee, yes, it could be. So she kept quiet, especially in nursing. The interviewer interjected, yes, graduates who are nursing mothers. The interviewer asked, if unemployment, yes. In my opinion, be totally not being employed. All right, so the first knowledge is, in our own opinion, is being unemployment. Totally, completely means unemployment. So the interviewer says, and underemployment, so she says, the interviewer now, and underemployment perhaps could mean I'm not at the level in which I want to be employed. Yes, but not to that level that the level that perhaps I want to be in terms of according to the level of education. Yeah, but unemployment is totally not being employed. So in this, there's a mix. She's saying that unemployment is being at the level that she doesn't want to be. So we coded this as underemployment. I'm sorry, underemployment. So she went on and to ask other questions. Can you be yes, characteristics of unemployment. She said, oh, sorry, characteristics. Yes, characteristics of unemployment graduate, for instance, are they of a specific gender, or is there a certain age, a certain age bracket where you find this unemployment graduate? Is it possibly out there? Do they have disabilities? That's why they are unemployment. They come from poor background. So the respondent says, well, I think it could be most of the unemployment graduate. And yeah, so there was nothing to quote there. So it doesn't, okay, so it moves on and says, oh, out from unemployment, blah, blah, blah. Sorry, you are breaking. Yes, I'm here. I hope what so that I don't bore you with all this. That's the problem with analysis. So the person says all sorts of la 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 la. So there was other thing to code here. Yeah, mostly, I could say that women, the female gender is affected most. So barrier to unemployment was seen as gender. So we had barrier, unemployment. Remember that I was saying in your code book that it doesn't follow when you, that's why you have to sit down with your code book, understand what you are how to look for. Because you'll be shocked that when you're asking questions on underemployment, they are answering questions to barrier, or they are telling you recommendations, or they are telling you strategies by which you can answer this that you can tackle this unemployment issue. So it's important to be in your transcript. You must be in the transcript. You must be alert. You must be in the transcripts. That's the word to use. So that's it. So it goes on again. There's nothing to code in all of this. The respondent, the interviewer is asking lots of questions, but there is nothing. So the next that sounds like something to code is, well, I will answer. So let us read the question. Do you think, probably, because if you have studied maybe a particular course, that's why you find you do not have a job, while those who have studied another course, have access, have more job opportunities. So he says that, well, I will answer you personally. No, not according to what people believe or what people say, I guess, but what I believe. Yes, it is not about the job, the course you studied, but it's about the passion you have to pursue anything that comes into your hands. Yeah, so if you have the passion to get out there and be aggressive, also around, and you are able to get employed, doesn't matter which course you study. Yeah, people have done engineering and even medicine, but some of them are still jobless. And somebody just did another course that people think is not very marketable, but they are there. So I don't believe, I just believe in passion to work. So this person believes that it is not what you do, it's about adaptability, how you can adapt to so let's go back to the code, because it's been long. I can't remember what RGE means, so we can find what RGE means here and search RGE. So, okay, so it's recommendation for graduate employability. So this person feels that the problem was not, or is not with the job that, the course that you studied, but that you were not able to have adaptability skill. Okay, so moving from that, let's look at So I think that with this interface, you understand it a bit more, because if you do not see what somebody else has done, it might sound like gibberish. All right, so next, effects of family. So this person is asking, okay, if I may ask you, is there a trend that you're seeing or that you have been able to witness, especially among nursing mothers, in terms of them being unemployed? So the interviewer says, yeah, yes. Some, especially some of the mothers, for me, it's a person. It's a decision they make to take care of the little ones under a certain age. Then they go back to the employment. So it's a personal decision. In some cases, some employers find it hard to employ such nursing mothers because they think they will underemploy. So it says barrier and discrimination. Let's expand here. So barriers and discrimination, then barrier as a gender. So she's affected because she's female, and then she's affected because there's stigmatization. People feel she would not do well because she is a nursing mother. She would underperform. She has to go and cater for her baby. So you notice that for this code, we had more than one thing, because one, there is gender undertone. Two, there is discrimination. Another is, now see where we were when we started. The first question was to look at knowledge of unemployment. See another knowledge here. So there is has. Yes. So what would you say is a leading cause of unemployment among graduates in this country? Now this person is saying I think leading cause of unemployment. I think that the leading cause of unemployment, the reasons are varied. So she is knowledgeable. She sounded like she knows a lot. So we say knowledge of unemployment. So there's, even though it's not under the question that should ask about knowledge, but she's still talking about knowledge further down in the questioning. Now, the next that I want to look at. So as I go on, please interrogate your own ATLAS.TI and see how this can this training can help you a bit more. So lastly, let's look at this interesting one. She's asking she's answering further in the question, the barrier. So she says that, but one of them could be, she was asked, what is the leading cause? So the first thing she talked about was knowledge. Then she moved again into talking about the leading cause. So she said, but one of them could be lack of jobs. There are not so many industries. There are so many jobs there's so many jobs around. And then we are also depending on graduates are depending on being employed instead. Okay, people are depending on graduates who are supposed to be dependent on instead, creating opportunities for others. So lack of job, there are administrative bottlenecks, there are no industries. So that is what it looks like to code. Now let's go back to the coding. So having coded all of this, we have lots of codes. Now imagine you have 166 codes. How do you make sense of it? So you come and then you start to have code groups. You move into and put all the barriers together. Now you see that we have 16 code groups. You move all the things that sounded like barriers, move them together. So if you click on barrier, you have lots of barriers and lots of, so let's see what the interface of barrier looks like. So under barrier, we have age. If you look here, we have age, we have type of disability, we have unemployment itself as a barrier, we have disability, we have discrimination, we have discrimination again, we have discrimination, we have disability, we have age as a barrier, we have discrimination, type of disability, lack of information as barrier, lack of information again, challenges experienced, lack of information again, administrative bottleneck, ethnicity as a barrier, others, lack of opportunity, ethnicity, lack of connection. I don't know anybody. Nobody knows me. I'm an angel from heaven. Marital status is a barrier because I'm married. Nobody wants to give me a job. They feel I should go and be taking care of my husband. Age is a barrier. If I were younger, if I graduated from the university earlier, maybe, and then like that. So, having had, now that you have all of this, then you start to link. I won't want to take you too deep. With this surface, you can generate reports and start to write. So if you want to write on, there are other ways to analyze it with this, but you can have a picture of, so let's say you want to generate a report for barrier. Let's go back. And without linking, just to generate reports. So we go to even interface generation of the power by exports. Code book, okay, let's do this. Barrier. Analyze. Please, let's start to ask question while I look for tools now. Analyze now. Analysis. This generation. Tools, export, search,
Okay. Anyone with a question?
Let's ask questions because it's almost 9 while I look for how to, I've forgotten how to, it's a new interface.
Okay.
Okay. So my question is, from the previous slide you shared and then what you saw, you will say that there was nothing relevant here, and you got to a point and say, okay, this now look relevant. By relevant, yes.
Okay.
So, by relevant, do you mean as regards to the objectives, or probably that's when the interviewer begin to say something?
Okay, so let's go by. I like that question. That's why I laughed. So let's go back there. You see, the interview, remember, was done for 1 hour 7 seconds, and then by the time we're going to the field, for instance, what you want to do is somebody is telling you about Nigeria. Okay, this is Kenya. This Kenya self. Okay, you're asking about unemployability, and the respondent is saying, there's no food, and it's available. For instance, at this phase where we are now, it was introducing the study. There's nothing to code there. Remember, we have a code book.
Yeah.
So the code book would guide what you're looking for. If you sit down, remember you have 95 transcripts. Reading and rereading is not easy. So, and before you could get to the point where you say that this is not relevant, it's because you read it.
Okay.
I've read, and I know that, okay, as I held, for instance, let's say I was using paper analysis, I have my code book in front of me, written with colors. When there were no softwares, people were using stickers, yellow sticker or highlighters. So you have different highlighters that you will use to mark and then write on each transcript. So you are reading through, and then the person is saying, there's no fish, and in the market there is, I went to the market, I visited the market is so dirty, and the question is all about markets. If you code that, there's nothing you'll be using it to answer in your objective, so you'll be wasting your time.
That's true.
So it's about your objective and what you want to answer, your research question that guides your analysis. And that's why it's very, very important to have a code book. Because sometimes you're reading through and you can't even remember what you read through, and then you're thinking, okay, where should this be? You remember 166 code is not, sorry to say this word, it's not more. It's not some, is a lot. So to remember 166 codes as you read through just one transcript is a lot. It's a lot of nerve firing and synapse working in your brain. So it's a lot of brain work. So then start adding irrelevancies. I bet you that sometimes you have to read a particular transcript and reread again and read again, and you can code a particular transcript more than once. And it's important to have intercoder reliability. So what we do in intercoder reliability is you've coded, you have to have somebody else coding exact same transcripts so that you can see if your reliability, your consistency is high, is required in this analysis. That's where you find your reliability, because you coded and I coded the same transcript. How much of what I coded did you code? If it's very similar, then you have a code intercoder reliability of like 0.96, 0.98. But by the time you're having an intercoder reliability of 0.5, 0.7, 0.75, if I sometimes 79, it means you have to go back. Both of you will have to visit that transcript again and look at it. That's in the big the expected thing, but as you go on, you get used to it. So it's not just reading and just deciding, okay, this one does not fit, this one fits. No, you're not, as much as you're the Lord and King of your analysis. Remember, you're submitting it to ATLAS where people will ask questions, and you're submitting it to reviewers who know the process, who hit qualitative research, sleep on it. So they will ask you some deep questions. What did you do here? How did you do it? This that you're saying you did, is a lie. This, so they can question your process. So it's not just because you didn't like the face or how the person sounded. No, it's because it's not relevant. Thank you. I hope that's clear.
Yeah, thank you very much, ma.
Okay, so
Okay.
let's
Any
quickly.
other question?
Okay, before we take.
I think I have a question too. I'm wondering how this transcript was done. The
Okay,
audio
so it was a
transcript.
verbatim. It was, and that's why it's funny to read. It was a verbatim transcription. I use a lot of verbatim. I do a lot of verbatim because even though there are more insights into what you want to do than when it's edited, because if you're not careful, if you say someone should help you edit, they edit out some important information. So I leave all my harms, even though it doesn't read well. But as I go on in my report writing, I then start to edit. I then start to give it the correct words. So if you come, this is a report that was submitted. So if you come here, you'll see okay, so this was what I was saying, that it's another platform that you do all this type of analysis. Because if you do it with the initial analysis, there's some mix-up that will happen. So you do this. All right, so method of analysis, I want to go to an example. So let's quickly read through. Sorry about that in your eyes. Let's quickly read through, even though time is almost up. Knowledge of unemployment. So let's see how we interrogated. Remember when I was saying there are two formats of writing. You could do case writing or you could do team format writing. So in this report, we did the team format. And in the report, so you don't want to just start. So you say, according to different definitions, for an unemployed person could refer to a person who has reached working age and is willing to work but could not find work. To qualify as unemployed, these are what people have said, a summary of what they said. To qualify as unemployed, the person must possess necessary and required skill, but actively seeking to be engaged in a job, be without one, and have actively sought employment for some time without being successful. For underemployment, it is seen as the underutilization of a person's skill and time by an unemployable person, while they have a meager or insufficient income plan. The above team captures the participants' knowledge and understanding of unemployment and unemployment situation in their country and how it affects them. This team are explained one after each other below. So we first have the unemployment. Unemployment as depicted by participants. Remember, this is not a dictionary definition. So you've sat with all that they said and you are bringing out what they said. Is a person's by participants in the interviews tallies with the general definition by most dictionary, which speaks to unavailability of jobs. The participants from the countries of interest view unavailability of job for graduates of higher education or tertiary education as unemployment. Some say it is the inability to earn any money when you feel you have been equipped with the skill, the ability and skill needed by employer for employment. Below are some of the excerpts from the participant that depict the above. So one says, I think when they say unemployed, it means someone not having a job and does not earn something at the end of the month. It can also be that the person does not have a certificate, because having a job implies that one must have a certificate. You see that the that is readable, and harms and and in the transcript itself. But as you go here, you don't want to irritate your readers. You want your audience to enjoy what they're reading. So you make it more readable without losing the original meaning, without adding to it or giving it the exact readable style. So the next person says, the situation of unemployment is a state of someone who is qualified, trained, and who does not have the opportunity to be employed. So that's for Cameroon. Nigeria, it means having no means of livelihood, and at the end of the day, I do not categorize unemployment as entrepreneur. To me, it is those that are not employed that are underemployed. So for this person, even though you do not have a job, but you're an entrepreneur, you are employed. And so let's stop here. But this is what, let's see if I have any visualization here. All right, so this is sorry about that on your eyes. Listen, let's see. What are the infrastructural what needs people with disabilities, causes of unemployment? So they say poor governance is a cause of unemployment. If you look at this, social class, sorry. I just wanted us to see all right. It doesn't want you to see it though. All right. So how do I bring it gradually down and down and down? All right. So causes of unemployment. generally, what are the things that pops as causes of unemployment throughout the transcript in this analysis? Poor governance is one. And under poor governance, you see the link, social class and connection. If you know somebody, you get. If you don't know anybody, you won't get unemployed. COVID-19 pandemic, stroke came and affected unemployment. Some do not have required skill, training, and experience. The cost of study and qualification, and then limited opportunities. Then infrastructural deficiency for people with disabilities. So this is a way to look at the broad picture. It gives a very broad picture and it takes it across the different countries. So you have Algeria, you have Kenya, you have Nigeria, you have let's see, you have Kenya, you have like that. So that is, it's 9 o'clock already. You agree with me that we need to stop. But I am sure you've enjoyed it. It's not something you can learn in a day. It's as you interrogate and play with ATLAS.TI or any other software. It helps you to understand. It's the training could go on for a month and you still will not get it, like Prof said the last time. You need to read more, sit more with ATLAS.TI or NVivo or GJUS and get it more. And then there are lots of books. ATLAS.TI itself has manual online, training manual that you can sit with. NVivo too has training online. If you join them on LinkedIn, both NVivo and ATLAS.TI, there are trainings almost every week, webinars, free trainings. There are paid trainings, but there are free trainings too. So you can go on the website and learn more. And if you want to learn more, you can contact me too. I'll take some token. Thank you for the opportunity to teach in this classroom. So long, I appreciate you so much for believing in me and for giving me this platform. Thank you, Ma.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kundayo. It has been an interesting journey, starting from knowing nothing about qualitative analysis to knowing codings, both deductive and inductive coding. And I'm sure the experiences of all the fellows is the same. So we'll take questions if there are, then we can round up the session. Any question? Okay, I assume the silence means there is no question. Everything is well understood. Okay, Grace. Grace, you have the floor. I can also hear Grace.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, ma. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, please. I wanted to ask, after interviewing the respondents, maybe we are using a recorder to record their responses, and then we want to write out our transcript. Is it okay to use all these transcribers, or would it reduce the integrity of the paper, of the research, like transcribing from audio to written forms? Because I feel like if we use a transcriber, for example, we might not get some of those expressions that the respondents are giving, just like the example you have shown us today. So I wanted to know if it is allowed to use, especially when you have like a large number of respondents and you have to transcribe for each one of them.
Thank you very much. It's a beautiful question. Yes, there are transcribers and you can use them. But the challenge with transcribers, like you pointed out, is you would lose out information. So what I do sometimes, even though I try not to, but I use them as software that helps with foundation. So you put in your audio in a transcriber, it does the transcribing for you, but you have to sit with it, listen, and be sure that it is what was recorded that was transcribed. Because you know, if you've used them before, that sometimes our intonation and accent affects what the transcriber hears and how he puts words down. For instance, the word there, they, all those. So if you're not careful, it writes something else for you, and it makes you lose meaningful information. So you can use transcriber, but not solely. You can't use transcriber as you can't depend solely on transcribers. So you put in the transcriber, it does a first foundational transcription for you, but you still have to listen to the audio and read through what your transcriber has done for you. We have to use AI smartly. Don't depend solely on AI. It's to make our work easier. So start with transcriber, but don't depend on transcriber. Still listen to the audio and then reflect on and make sure that is what the audio said that you have in your transcript. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ma.
Okay. So in the absence of any other session, I think we can call it a day, and I think this is a wrap for us on the qualitative analysis aspect of the training. So in the next 2 weeks, we'll start the quantitative, and we look forward to that. All right.
Yeah, before we go, Dr. Lawal, I just want to thank